The New York Times today ran an op-ed by a lawyer who was taking credit for helping draft Arizona's new anti-immigration law. He's a lawyer with the legal arm of a group called FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform. In defending the Arizona law against its critics, this lawyer, Chris Kobach, notes that this is not Arizona's first brush with anti-immigration legislation. He describes, for example, a law passed in 2007 in Arizona that makes it illegal to, quote, knowingly employ unauthorized aliens. Even before that, in the summer of 2004, there was another fierce battle in Arizona over an anti-immigration ballot initiative. It was called Proposition 200. Both of Arizona's Republican senators, John McCain and John Kyle, opposed Prop 200, as did the Democratic governor at the time, Janet Napolitano. On the national level, opposition was bipartisan as well, from the very pro-labor group AFL-CIO to the pages of the very pro-business Wall Street Journal. This anti-immigration measure, Prop 200, was drafted by a group that was called Protect Arizona Now. And in order to get it on the ballot on Election Day, you need to collect a lot of signatures, right? A big signature drive like that for a statewide ballot initiative is an expensive measure. The money for that expensive measure, the money for the signature drive, was provided in large part by FAIR, by the same group that's now taking credit for helping write the bill that we've been calling the Papers, Please law in Arizona. To get Prop 200 on the ballot, FAIR reportedly dumped about $450,000 into Protect Arizona Now for their signature-gathering effort. The two groups held joint press conferences in Arizona featuring officials from both organizations. FAIR gave practically minute-by-minute updates about how many thousands of signatures had been collected for Prop 200. FAIR and Protect Arizona Now were essentially joined at the hip in this effort to get Prop 200 on the ballot. And then something happened. Local newspapers in Arizona started looking into Protect Arizona Now. And they found out that one of the top officials at that group, helping to push this anti-immigration ballot initiative, was a self-described ethnic separatist. Her name is Virginia Abernathy. And when contacted by a local newspaper in Arizona about her views, Ms. Abernathy said, quote, "I'm in favor of separatism. I know that ethnic groups are more comfortable with their own kind." Ms. Abernathy then wrote a letter to the Washington Times in which she said, quote, "I'm an ethnic separatist, European American to be exact." That looks bad, right? To its credit, FAIR immediately distanced themselves from Virginia Abernathy. They blasted out a press release that said, quote, "The views expressed by a Ms. Virginia Abernathy are repugnant and divisive. FAIR and everyone FAIR represents categorically denies and repudiates Abernathy's repulsive separatist views." That's the important point here. Obviously, being a proud white separatist is a view that most people in the country are going to find repugnant. Doing the savvy PR thing and distancing themselves from the person caught admitting to be a white separatist is exactly how FAIR has built its FAIR image as a seemingly moderate, seemingly middle-of-the-road anti-immigration group. But beyond the press release, is there a reason why Virginia Abernathy and FAIR were working together so closely in the first place? FAIR was founded in 1979 by a man named John Tanton. Around the time he started FAIR, John Tanton was writing stuff like this, quote, "To govern is to populate. Will the present majority peaceably hand over its political power to a group that is simply more fertile? As whites see their power and control over their lives declining, will they simply go quietly into the night, or will there be an explosion?" For 9 of the first years of its existence, as we've reported on this show, John Tanton's FAIR organization received more than $1 million in funding from a group called the Pioneer Fund. The Pioneer Fund is an outfit that bankrolls all sorts of controversial research about race and intelligence, essentially aiming at proving the racial superiority of white people. While founding FAIR and seeking and receiving funding for it from groups like the Pioneer Fund, John Tanton was also heading up another organization called U.S. English. When a series of Mr. Tanton's memos on racial issues were published by the Arizona Republic newspaper in the late 1980s, U.S. English sort of fell apart. Many of the prominent mainstream people associated with U.S. English jumped ship. People like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Walter Cronkite and former Reagan administration official Linda Chavez. Tanton's memos asked trenchant questions like, what are the differences in educability between Hispanics and Asiatics? Also, can Homo contraceptivus compete with Homo progenitiva? As in, no, you don't have to go look those things up. They don't exist. What he was suggesting with those fake Latin words is that there are different human species, those who reproduce a lot and those who don't. Which are you? John Tanton's papers are archived at a library at the University of Michigan, which has put in the public record written statements like this from him. Quote, I've come to the point of view that for European American society and culture to persist requires a European American majority, and a clear one at that. Whatever happened to old John Tanton after he founded FAIR and everybody bugged out about his U.S. English group because of these memos? FAIR kept him on the board of directors. He's there now. That's on their website today. FAIR likes to project a very moderate image, and by and large the media gives them credit for having a very moderate image. But why is that exactly? Joining us now for the interview is Dan Stein. Dan Stein is the president of FAIR. Mr. Stein, I really appreciate you offering to be here with us tonight. Thanks very much for your time.
Happy to be here.
I said a lot there about your organization. Let me ask you if I got any of the facts wrong about FAIR so far.
Well, I don't think you've said much about FAIR itself as an organization in the course of this thing. But, I mean, I think the reason why I thought it was important to come on was that even though tonight you have repeated some of this stuff generated by the Southern Poverty Law Center, piecing together out-of-context snippets from third-party people that are not directly associated with or in that matter, speaking directly for the organization is not a fair representation of FAIR or this movement. And, you know, certainly in this day and age, we would expect mainstream journalists like yourself to do some independent research on their own and not just take talking points from discredited smear artists like those folks down in Alabama. And the Southern Poverty Law Center really doesn't have any credibility at all.
Well,
FAIR certainly never.
Wait, hold on.
You made a couple of statements that are flat out not accurate.
Okay, let's get to that. I mean, you can impugn my research. Wait, hold on. Wait, you can impugn my research techniques all you want, but if you want to talk about things that I've said that are inaccurate, tell me what they are.
Well, first of all, you've neglected to point out that for 30 years, which one of the reasons FAIR is a go-to organization with the media is that we're credible. We talk about the issue from its currency and national standpoint, but we've also made a point of saying, and I think we've vindicated that over 30 years, that immigration policy should not discriminate on the basis of ethnicity or race or any other invidious basis. And I think you've got a track record of thousands of television appearances, hundreds of congressional testimony, a virtual public record as long as your arm of this organization that would bear out those issues.
Well, let's talk about.
I think people know that we're an extremely fair-minded organization.
Okay.
We certainly never had anything to do with Virginia Abernathy. I don't know where you got the idea we ever worked closely with her. We never have.
Well,
and FAIR was founded.
Wait, hold on. On that point, sir, did you not give her organization hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Prop 200 race?
No. First of all, we never gave that organization a dime. And secondly, even if we were going to give them a dime, we wouldn't have given them a dime with Virginia Abernathy associated with it. See, the problem is the Southern Poverty Law Center has made about 75 factual allegations, all of which are wrong.
Well, let's talk about the factual allegations. You're not being interviewed by the Southern Poverty Law Center. You're being interviewed by me.
1979. FAIR was founded in 1979 with seed money from the Stuart Mott Foundation.
Okay.
John Tanton, several other people involved in U.S. population policy, Dick Lamb, Sharon Barnes, variety of people working with Planned Parenthood, Zero Population Growth, and others, Sidney Swensrud, who helped build the Florida Nature Conservancy, former chairman of Gulf Oil, all got together and said we need a responsible national organization to help ensure that immigration doesn't fuel too rapid population growth, because there was a time when it was believed that population stabilization was in the national interest. And there were Democrats and Republicans together on this after the Hesburgh Commission, people like Father Hesburgh, Barbara Jordan.
Okay.
We worked with them, the NAACP, to try to bring together a compromise. And what's happening in this debate now is that there's a polarization taking place where somehow there's this idea that Democrats don't favor any immigration enforcement and want the borders out of control, and Republicans or anybody who wants to see the laws enforced in this country is somehow a bad guy or a bigot. And I'm telling you, that is a misrepresentation of, this is a very sensitive, very delicate, very difficult policy issue. It's obviously very emotional. But if we're going to take this country down a partisan road on the immigration policy debate, we're heading down a very treacherous road indeed, because this is ultimately something about who we are and what we are as a people and what we become over time.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
I'm right here.
All right. So, founder of FAIR, John Tanton, still on your board of directors. He has argued for the advancement of a European American majority. He's warned white people